important tea break. Because I still have my cold, but the show must go on. Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I am here with the used books tag. This tag was created by Time for Books, and I believe the official name is the Used Book Tag January 2018 edition. So I know I'm doing this kind of late, but I still like the questions. I will link the original video down below in the description, and I was tagged by Todd from Todd the Librarian, and I will also link his channel down below. Question number 1 is tell us about your favorite secondhand book you own. Show it off if you can. And my absolute favorite used book I have is my copy of Cyrano de Bergerac by Edmond Rostand. This was 48 cents. So, bargain appreciation, first off. But I got this at the Strand bookstore in New York City, which is an incredible store that's just, it's miles and miles of books, basically, and they have used books and new, and it's just like a book lover's paradise. And I went there when I was visiting one of my very close friends, so that was also a really fun part of the experience. And I picked this up on kind of a whim. We were just browsing through the used book area, and I saw this play, and I remember one of my theater professors talking about how it was his favorite play in the world. You know, and that from somebody who has had a lot of exposure to theater is a really high endorsement. And I was like, you know what? It might be fun. So I read this, and it is now one of my favorite plays as well. It's just such an emotional and powerful and beautiful story. Like, the writing and translation is just fantastic, and the characters just like rip your heart out in the best way possible. Number 2 is tell us where you like to shop for secondhand books and why you love it there. Now, in my town, we used to have 3 bookstores, and alas, now we only have 1, which kind of breaks my heart still. The bookstore that we still have is a used bookstore that has a pretty good variety and selection considering how small it is, and they also have a very small, like, new releases or new books area. I've found some really amazing, like, hidden gems there, things that I probably would never have found on my own if I were shopping online, or, you know, even if I were at a library. You just don't always know what you're going to get in a used bookstore, and some of my absolute favorite series have been discoveries from that store. But I have also recently discovered Half Price Books, which is fantastic. We unfortunately do not have one close to where I live, but while we were visiting family, we actually went to one in that area, and it was so wonderful. They have such an amazing stock of very lightly used books, so they're in great condition, and again, they have such an amazing variety. So I'm definitely gonna be a repeat customer there too. Number 3 is show us 3 recent thrift store book buys. I don't know why it took me so many takes to say that you are excited over, and tell us why you love them. And all 3 of these are from pretty recent book hauls I've done. The first one is The Furies of Calderon by Jim Butcher. I just happened to find this first book. I think this one was from Half Price Books, and I'm really excited to get into this series because I've heard a lot of good things about it from booktubers in the past, but it's sort of like an older fantasy series, I mean, relatively speaking, so I don't hear too much buzz about it anymore, but I'm hoping that it's gonna be a new old series that I can love. The next one is The Arabian Nights, a play by Mary Zimmerman, and this is from my local used bookstore. And I was just so thrilled and shocked to find this because Mary Zimmerman is a really fantastic playwright, but she's not one that's extremely well known. Like, I never would have thought to check if they had any Mary Zimmerman plays in stock, except that I happened to come across this one. And I love fairy tale, like, retellings and elements, and I'm really interested to see how she kind of retold the Arabian Nights story. And the last one is Skylark by Megan Spooner, and this was also from Half Price Books, and I am just so excited because I found the whole trilogy. It's not out of print officially, I don't think, but it is really, really hard to get your hands on. So the fact that I found all 3 books in pretty good condition and for a pretty good price was just really amazing, and I love Megan Spooner's solo book and her co-authored books. Number 4 is Show and Tell. Tell us about, and show if possible, the worst used book you have ever bought. And I actually can't show you this one because I did get rid of it, but this was also at my local bookstore, and it was an ARC, like an advanced reader's copy version of The Lie Tree by Frances Hardinge. And I know that you're not supposed to sell or buy ARCs, but at the time, I didn't really know that. I probably should have, but I didn't know that. And I was really excited because I had read one of Frances Hardinge's books at that point and I loved it. So I read it, and the last, like, 10 pages of the book were missing. And this was my first experience ever reading an ARC, so I was like, is that a thing people do? Is that what publishers do? They like give you free copies of books, but they don't tell you the end so that you like feel like you need to buy it when it comes out? I didn't have any idea what I was talking about, but I didn't know what to do. So thank God I had bought a copy while I was in England for a friend of mine for her birthday, so I like sneakily read the last few pages of her copy before I mailed it to her. And like, thank God I did, because the place the ARC copy ended was just, it would not have been an acceptable ending. It would have been just really frustrating and depressing. But the worst part is that I thought it was the ending, because it was just vague enough that I was like, maybe this is what the author just decided to do. Like, maybe she ended it in this really weird, like, controversial way, and that's just how the book ends. But anyway, that was my worst used book experience. You could say that I deserved it for trying to buy an ARC that you're not supposed to, but I didn't really know any better, and it was still pretty stressful, so. And finally, number 5 is tips and advice. Please give some of your best advice and tips to book lovers who are new or unfamiliar with purchasing used books. And I'm not like an expert or anything, but there's a couple things that I sort of feel like are good to know when you're just starting out buying used books. One of them is, don't be afraid to branch out and try new things. Like, use it as an opportunity to dip your toe into genres that you've been meaning to pick up for a while and you just never have. Because it's sort of a low cost way of trying out new books. You know, so if you see a book you've heard a lot of buzz about, but it's from a genre that you don't really pick up, but you're still kind of curious, then buying it used is a good way to see if you like it without committing like $18 to the hardcover or whatever, you know? And then my other piece of advice is, I guess, sort of in counterpoint to that, and that is, don't get carried away when you're buying used books. Like, don't use it as an excuse or motivator to buy a lot of books that you can collect but you're never gonna read, because it's so cheap, and I know it's really easy to get caught up in like, well, maybe I'll like it. It doesn't sound like anything I'd ever read, but like, it's only $4, it's fine. Because I have done that, but it does still add up. And like, for example, if you know that you hate reading mass market paperbacks, like you cannot stand them, you never pick them up, you've never actually finished one that you have in your collection, then don't buy like a full mass market paperback edition of a series at a used bookstore. Because yes, it's cheap, but if you know you're never gonna read it, then buying it cheap is still not a good investment, if that makes sense. So happy book hunting! That was the Used Books Tag January 2018 edition. I am going to tag Shazza from Hooked on Books. I don't know if she specifically seeks out used books, but she did a great discussion video on physical bookstores and how you can find really great books that you never would have found on your own. So this is sort of in line with that. So I'm gonna tag Shazza, and of course anybody else who sees this and who loves used books or who is maybe starting to get into used books. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!